Procedural notes. Aurora Town Council has resumed in-person meetings for council and staff members only. Residents who wish to view meetings of council should go to www.youtube.com/c/town-of-aurora/videos. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Kim, Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions? Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask, I'm not sure if this is the right time or not, to waive procedural bylaw to add my notice of motion distributed earlier on yesterday.
Just give it a sec, Council. Go ahead, Councillor Gallo. We'll see you now.
Oh, I wanted to, I'm not sure if now is the time. If it isn't, please advise. To ask to waive procedural bylaw to add to the agenda my my notice of motion.
Okay. Yep. This is the perfect time. Would someone like to second that to waive procedural bylaw? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, I need 2/3 vote on that, so I will call the vote. Mr. Clerk, we're using tabulators correctly? Councillor Gallo, you're good to use a tabulator, right? I think it should pop up.
I just have to log on, sorry.
Okay, I'll give it a second for you to log on. And then if it doesn't work, just let me know and then I'll have to ask for your vote. Okay. Are you logged on, Councillor?
I'm not. 1 second.
Do you want me just to get you to say your vote on this one?
Yeah,
and then we can.
In the meantime, I'll log on.
Okay, so I'll just get everyone to vote first. So if we can get the vote on our screen. Thank you. Linda, do we have are we missing? It's just Councillor Gallo and Councillor Gardner. Okay, Councillor Gallo, your vote?
I voted. I logged on, I voted. It's yes.
Oh, he's got it. Okay. Councillor Gardner, are you there?
I am, thank you. My vote is yes.
Clerk is count. Oh, there's Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gardner, your vote? Waiving procedural bylaw?
I'm following. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My vote is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That carries. So we'll go back to the main motion as amended, which was the approval of the agenda. If there are no other comments or questions on that, I will ask for a vote. This is just back to a simple majority. Seeing nothing else, I'll call the vote. Mr. Clerk. Linda, just Councillor Gardner, your vote?
My vote is yes.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you.
That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have no community presentations. We do have one delegation that was added. Before I do that, I did want to just say, welcome back, Councillor Kim. before I move into that delegation, I did want to welcome you back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the delegation. 5.1, Todd and Keltie Stewart, residents. And in regards to item 8.1, PDS 21-104, Heritage Permit Application 65 Spruce Street. Todd, Keltie, welcome.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, we see you. You're there. You have, just let you know, you have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have about a minute left. Okay?
Perfect.
Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, thank you for the opportunity to be heard this evening. I'm Keltie Stewart, and this is my husband, Todd. And we also have 2 sons. We're proud Aurorans, and we've been for the past 9 years. We're very fortunate to live in the northeast quadrant of Yonge and Wellington at 65 Spruce Street, and we're very proud of the heritage aspects of our neighborhood. Due to a stubborn leaky roof, we've decided to renovate our home to make it suitable for our long-term needs and to repair the roof. We respect and agree with all heritage requirements that protect our home and our town's legacy and embrace the responsibility of renovating within these requirements. We chose to work with a contractor who we felt could help us accomplish our renovation visions while ensuring that the town requirements are respected and followed. Our contractor, Dave Doran, had a delay in submission to the Heritage initially in hopes that his particular project will be able to be considered in an alternative format, given the work was proposed on the rear and the side elevations only. We hoped an in-person review once the town offices reopened may allow for a heritage sign-off in this particular case without the requirement for the full review and meeting process. We are hoping that since this was not the case and we have since followed regular submission routes later than we should have, and since Heritage has since reviewed and met on the application and had no objections or concerns recorded, that the further requirements to review the Heritage decision at the General Committee meeting and then ratify at the following council meeting could be combined today. The Heritage Committee has recommended approval for the project. Alternatively, could the process be expedited in some other way to get the notice of consent required to allow a complete building application to ensure a streamlined review process when submitted for our building permits? A recent leaky roof in the last week with all that torrential rain has yet again, despite several attempts at repair, put us even more strain on the roof and hopes for an expedited permit. Thank you very much for your time this evening and consideration, the Stewart family. That's it.
Thank you, Keltie. Council, can I first get a motion to receive and refer to item 8.1? Councillor Gillam, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions to the delegate? Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
Thank you through Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Stewart, for showing today delegating. Absolutely understand the situation, and you know these rules are in place because absolutely for what you are here for, to do things the right way, keep your beautiful heritage area just the way we love it and continue to enjoy. And I know that you are absolutely amazing owners of this house. And that you're doing your best to follow all processes and procedures. And this was just a sort of a mishap, but you followed all the rules as is. So I look forward to working on this evening. Staff is in support of moving forward. We don't want your home damaged. We're so thankful that you're continuing to keep the heritage property as is and just continue to provide it's care and love that it needs. So thank you so much for coming forward this evening and working very quickly to help preserve your home and do the right things. So thank you again for coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Keltie, Todd, thank you very much. Well, I'll actually try to pull this forward so we can discuss it first. if council's not objected to that. So we'll try to get that resolved first thing on the agenda. Okay. So thank you very much for coming and delegating, and enjoy your evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Council, call the vote.
Houston.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you. That carries. Council will move to consent agenda. We have from 6.1 to 6.9. Are there any ones that anyone would like to pull or any questions? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items 6.1 to 6.9 inclusive to be approved. Councillor Gillam, seconder. Councillor Humphreys. Not seeing any. Nope. Okay, call the vote. Councillor Gardner. Vote.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you. That carries. Councillor Thompson, I see your name. Did you have a question about something?
Today, I wanted to ask council's indulgence, since there's only one item in section 8 for the heritage permit. Perhaps we can move that ahead of the standing committee reports and just deal with it right now if council's okay with it.
And Councillor, I'm fine with doing that. If I can just go through it and just get whatever items want to be pulled out of that, and then we can move to that and we can move that forward.
Okay.
Okay. So council will move to standing committee reports. Are there any items in the standing committee reports? That's all of number 7, 7.1 and 7.2s. Are there any items that you would like pulled? Councillor Gillam.
Excuse me, yes, 7.1.3. And I just want to separate 7.2.3 for voting. No comment.
7.2.3. Okay, thank you. Any others? Council? Councillor, I'm just going to ask because I can't see you right now. Councillor Gallo, you're okay? Councillor Gardner, you're okay? I see you now, but Councillor Gardner, you're okay? Nothing to pull?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. So council, if I can get a motion to approve all items in standing committee reports with the exceptions of 7.1.3 and 7.2.3. Someone like to move that? Councillor Humphreys, seconder. Councillor Kim. Call the vote. That carries. So now, council, unless there are no objections, I will move 8.1 forward and we'll deal with that. Not seeing any objections. Okay. So we have 8.1, staff recommendations, report number PDS 21 be received. 2, that the heritage permit application HPA 2021-11 be approved to permit a second-story rear addition proposed canopy over the existing porch, relocate existing skylight to the north facade of the rear addition, and 1 new window opening for the existing dwelling at 65 Spruce Street. Councillor Thompson, you wanted to move that recommendation? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Comments or questions on this item? Seeing none.
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner, are you guys, I don't see on my screen right now. Are you guys good?
Yes. I
Oh,
have a
Councillor
comment.
Gallo, go ahead. Yep.
I just if someone, I'm not sure which staff could speak to this, just quickly, just summarize and make sure that they don't have an issue with it.
I'm assuming Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. This report was originally scheduled for October 5th, had gone through Heritage Committee, no concerns raised by staff as set out in the report. It's just that the applicant wishes to advance their renovations earlier or sooner than later so that they don't get caught by the fall weather as it starts to turn. So no concerns from staff.
Councillor.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, I'm going to call the vote. Call the vote. Councillor Gardner, your vote?
My vote is yes. Thank you.
Thank you. That carries. Okay, we'll move back to 7.1.3. This is the proposed noise bylaw update. Recommendation out of general committee was that the report number CS 21-067 be received, and 2, that the proposed noise bylaw be brought forward to a future council meeting for enactment, repealing and replacing the current noise bylaw number 478706-.p. Councillor Gillam, you pulled this one. Would you like to move it? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gillam, floor is yours.
I'm on? Okay. Thank you to Ms. Van Loon for sending a follow-up to some of the concerns last week. Although I did have some follow-up questions about the power entry. My concerns were the process and the language in which the bylaw was written to where an officer would aimlessly be able to walk into someone's backyard to mitigate a situation that they found was important to investigate. And I just wanted to understand that process. And through Mr. Mayor and Mr. Nadarozny, because I understand Ms. Van Loon is not here, if you could just kind of explain some of the explanations that I had gotten from that department just recently offline, I think that would be really great. Thank you.
Mr. Seal.
Through Mr. Mayor, if Councillor Gillam is referring to the discretion or the authority of the bylaw officers in terms of entering a premise, Councillor Gillam had inquired as to whether or not there could be language in the bylaw that compelled staff to use their discretion and to not basically go in too heavy-handed. The issue with that is that this bylaw is also enforceable by the police, and the police would not be obliged to follow our bylaw. So we're trying to leave language that's consistent with the rules and policies that they have. So we have been assured, though, by manager, Mr. Ray, that staff will be instructed to obviously use the appropriate amount of discretion before, being heavy-handed.
Councillor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do appreciate Ms. Van Loon's explanation that they must follow. It's the intentions that they must follow that process before going forward. So that was what was important to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Oh, sorry. Can we? No one voted. Councillor Gardner wants to speak. Councillor Gardner, go ahead. I'm going to pull back the vote.
Thank you very much. I just have a comment, and I did
I don't
discuss it
think
with.
anyone voted, did they?
If so, I can wait till the
No,
bylaw.
go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I just, I had a long discussion with Ms. Van Leeuwen before she went on holiday. And one thing that I would like to suggest to you, Mr. CAO, is that in order to enact this noise bylaw properly, in my opinion, for the residents appropriately, we need to have bylaw officers on the ground on weekends after 10 o'clock at night, because I imagine that that's when a lot of, excuse me, a lot of the noise bylaw complaints happen. So that's just a comment to you, to council, and to Mr. CAO on behalf of the residents. I think that makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other comments, questions, I'll call the vote. Councillor Gardner, your vote?
My vote is no.
Thank you. That carries. We'll move to 7.2.3, Canadian Achievements, Diversity and Inclusion Mural Design Approval. The recommendation out of General Committee is 1, report number CMS 21-027 be received. 2, that the mural design titled Community Builds Community by Moonlight Murals Collective be approved for the Canadian Achievements, Diversity and Inclusion Mural as selected by the Mural Selection Committee. 3, that staff be directed to work with the artist to finalize the mural design to be superimposed on the building and be brought back to council for final approval. And 4, that the northern wall of 15242 Yonge Street be approved as the location for the Canadian Achievements, Diversity and Inclusion mural. Someone like to move that? Councillor Kim, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Comments or questions on this one, or Councillor, did you just want to vote on this? I know you pulled this one.
I no additional comments from last week. It's more process driven for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you have a comment?
Thank you. Perhaps it can go to Ms. McDougall. A question to Ms. McDougall.
Okay, what's the question?
I spoke with Mr. Rose a couple of times and Ms. McDougall once. And I thought it was very interesting that the websites representing the collective that is going to be doing this and the artist named in the proposal, the primary artist who's made the application. I thought it was quite interesting that the websites were changed a couple of days before this came to GC last time. And I was wondering if there were any comments on this.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I think actually Mr. Rose is online, and I know he's in consultation with the artist. I don't know if he has something to add. I know he did look into their website and to follow up with your questions. I'm not sure if he has a comment.
Mr. Rose?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardner. I did follow up with an email back to you, Councillor Gardner. I wasn't entirely sure what the question was back to the artist. I've looked at the site a number of times and I wasn't able to see the difference between when I was doing the selection committee and now. I apologize if I dropped the ball on that, but I wasn't exactly sure what the question I was meant to pose to the proposed artists.
Councillor?
Thank you. I did say in my email that if you had any questions, you could speak with me. Contrary to what you said, I was on the website on Friday and then on the following Tuesday, and both of the sites changed actually quite a lot. The one with the collective, the name of the person on the collective was different on the Friday. And on the Tuesday, the one on the Tuesday matching the application that we received. So I wanted clarification from the artists why that was. And actually, the artist who applied for the website. In my my opinion, checking from the Friday and the Monday, the Tuesday, it was quite changed. So, or the information online was quite changed. It just gives me some concern. So I'm stating that. That will influence my vote tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gardner, your vote.
My vote is no.
Thank you. That carries. All right, moving along. Motions. First one up is actually mine. I will pass the chair to Councillor Kim. Councillor Kim, you remember?
Oh, I remember. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would you like to put your motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll move as is.
Okay, a seconder. Yeah, Councillor Gillam. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just be very brief. This is just in front of us to direct staff to have them come back to us with options that will be made available to us when we move into the next season, and how we can, what approach we can take to ensure that we don't end up in the same situation that we did this season with in regards to the LDD moths. So we want to make sure that we're being proactive here. And so I think it's important to direct staff with the proper information and make sure that those options do come back to us, and that council makes the ultimate decision on how we move forward, because there's quite a few different types of options that could be presented to us. And then also working with the region as well and getting the useful information about what the region's looking at doing as we continue through and get all that presented to us and for us to make that final decision. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Gillam?
Thank you. I guess just a comment. Thank you, Mayor Maracas, for bringing this forward. This LED infestation has certainly been a hot topic over the summer. It's affected my family as well. I have an aunt in Tweed who has over 200 acres, has lived there for probably close to 50 years, and has planted a forest and has been seeking some help from all levels of government to help mitigate the issue that she's been having. And it is detrimental. And there's just so much more work to do. And I know there's a lot of collaboration that's going on in between the Invasive Species Department, the ministry, different levels of government, obviously the region and the conservation authorities. And, you know, I'm glad that this is here, and staff can work closely with the other levels of government to see what we can do to partner. Obviously, we don't know what all the appropriate steps are and what those options are, but so long as that we can work together and figure out what that best course of action is, this motion will do it. Thanks.
Okay, next is Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. I guess I'll welcome you back to council, but I'm not sure that that is, I'm not sure that that's exactly where you'd like to be right now, but thank you as everybody else for making our election process strong by runnings. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to know, with the BTK bacterium spray, will that spray have effects on other insects?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor, I'm not an expert in the field. That's why I think it's appropriate for us to get a report back on the options and what it actually contains, and would it be harmful to other insects within the area. And I think that that's why if you looked at some of the other municipalities and what they've done, while some of them have used it, some of them have used targeted spraying. And I think that's why in the motion it talks about considering targeted spraying, because you want to ensure that you don't impact any other insects in the area that are vital to our ecosystem.
Councillor
Thank
Gardner?
you. Thank you. I did a lot of work on this a couple of summers ago with Ms. Camp and the region, the Conservation Authority, Ministry of the Natural Environment. So coming up, we'll actually be in our third summer of this. And as you say in your motion, healthy trees can weather the storm. 3 years running, I'm not so sure. But my concern with any spraying is the impact on the other insects that we certainly want to live. And also these, this is spread on the wind. So I'd like to know from staff if this would actually, what the motion is suggesting, whether it would actually do what we'd like it to do. So I guess that's all. It's very complicated and we have a lot of upset residents, rightly so. But this is a tough one, and especially there'll be money involved with it. And we're just doing a small area. So I'd like to know how effective staff thinks it will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you to you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward. And I'm looking forward to the report. It'll answer some of the concerns that Councillor Gardner brought forward and Councillor Gillam. And I also believe that in the meantime, town did a really good job of trying to mitigate this as much as possible without causing any, undue risk. And I'm glad that the motion will clarify what further the town can do to help this situation as much as possible. But in the meantime, I did want to thank staff for the work that they did with the burlap. It was, everyone in town wanted to do whatever they could to help protect the trees, their trees, boulevards, and so on. So, anyways, looking forward to seeing the report. Thanks.
Gallo?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Through you, just a quick clarification. I'm in support of this. I just wanted to confirm that item 2 on the resolution will also be included in the report. It seems to be a direction, but I'm assuming that the second part will be included in as a full report, and that is not being moved forward exclusive of the report.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Councillor Gallo. Yeah, I mean, there's no intentions if we need to change a word, but there's no intentions. I expect that to come back to us in that report, the same report, and for us to make a final decision on how we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gallo?
That was it.
Thank you. Councillor Gillam for the second time.
Thank you. And I just kind of wanted to follow up what Councillor Gardner was suggesting about the spraying. From what I've read and what I've been advised, you are correct. Some of the spraying is not advised because of other insects and birds and such. There are other products and different innovation out there, and there are some targeted areas that do exist. So this gives us an opportunity, or lends us an opportunity to at least find out more information about that. And Councillor Humphreys follow-up, staff has done a great job. I love the fact that we had the burlap available for the residents to come out, some videos. There was Conservation Authority video as well, that from Toronto that was shared. And I also had spoken with the ministry and some other conservation chairs, and I had sent some information over to staff. So I think we were at a really good start. And we've all recognized that we need to mitigate this together. And one of the key elements is education piece and making sure that everybody's on the same page and understands how to identify it and put our hands together and try and stop it. Thanks.
Councillor Gardner for the second time.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. And to Councillor Gallo's point, I mean, we want to do something that's sensible. We're not going to do, I hope we won't be the only municipality doing this. I don't think that will happen. I don't think that's your intention, Mr. Mayor. Something that I think was mentioned by the Conservation Authority, but is certainly out there. They're called pheromone traps, and they actually interfere in the mating process. So I know your motion isn't exhaustive. With what you mentioned, but I would like that also to be looked at, because that seems like it would be pretty harmless. And I don't know how expensive either.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the vote. Mr. Clerk? Councillor Gardner, how do you vote?
Thank you. I vote yes.
Thank you. Okay, that carries. Pass the chair back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kim. Next motion, 9.2, Councillor Humphreys regarding National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Councillor, would you like to move your motion? Move as is?
Move as is.
Thank you. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Gillam? Councillor Humphreys, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is for National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I'd just like to read the motion as is. I think it's very important and appropriate. Timing as well is everything. However, whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, released its final report on June 2nd, 2015, which included 94 calls to action to redress the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation. And whereas the recent discoveries of remains and unmarked graves across Canada have led to increased calls for all levels of government to address the recommendations in the TRC's calls to action. And whereas all Canadians and all orders of government have a role to play in reconciliation. And whereas recommendation number 80 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission called upon the federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish a statutory holiday and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation to ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government has announced September 30th, 2021 as the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, and a statutory holiday. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Council of the Town of Aurora does hereby commit to recognizing September 30th, 2021 as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, by sharing the stories of residential school survivors, their families, and communities. And I just wanted to add that I'm really proud of some of the work that's being done by our town to recognize this day. There'll be educational sessions at Town Park from 4 to 6:30, I believe, on Thursday, and many other events online. I think the more we educate ourselves, our families, friends, the more that we pay homage to this important day. And just thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on this motion? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think the intent of this, marking this day, is to take a moment, a day, to hear stories and to understand what we did through the residential school system, and to acknowledge that it was wrong and atone for it. And so it is an important day. And I think we also need to honor those whose lives were taken. In fact, the breasts that were stolen, and honor the survivors. But it's not enough. What we do need to do, the old words, actions, not words. So hopefully through educating our students, to give them a broader spectrum of the history of Canada would be an important first step. I believe that is starting to happen now. But anything else that the town can do in the form of action, we must do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gillam.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Gallo might have had his hand up, or no? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Humphreys, for bringing the motion forward. I just really want to make a quick comment that obviously this Thursday there will be some truth and reconciliation activities happening, and from 4 to 8, brought to you by a cultural center in the town. So I really hope the community does take the time to participate.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. And I too wanted to express my support for this. I can't imagine anyone not agreeing with it. And to me, perhaps similar to Councillor Gardner's comments, it's a start. By no means should we be doing this and then forgetting about it, because that certainly isn't what I want. And it's a great start to moving forward and reconciling the damage that was done. So I fully support this, and I look forward to many other great ideas to try to do our best to compensate and show compassion for what happened, and so that it never happens again.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner, did you have your hand up again, or is that just still up?
No, I had it up again. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions for the first time? Seeing none, go ahead, Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And something, unfortunately, I know about, but we also need to remember, respect, and help the survivors, because when you're a survivor, you have anger, guilt, sadness. I mean, so much going on. And often we haven't really had that in our minds when we've been thinking of the survivors. And it's very important that we do, and respect their pain, and I guess try and help them in any way that we can. I heard something today that I found rather shocking, which is there were 138 residential schools. In those schools, about 10 to 15% of the children passed away, died. But there were 1,000 other schools run by the government and other organizations. So there is a potential that if we take all the children in those schools and add the 10 or 15%, that the tragedy just becomes so much larger. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Humphreys, for bringing this motion forward, and I will fully support it. And, having days of remembrance, and remembering is one of the most powerful ways of acknowledging the errors of the past and taking responsibility to ensuring it doesn't happen in the future, and starting the healing process. So thank you for allowing the town of Aurora to remember September 30th and remember the victims and the peoples. So thank you, and I'll be in full support.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Is there any other comments or questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gardner.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Next motion, Councillor Gillam, outdoor fitness park. Would you like to move as is?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gillam, floor is yours.
Thank you. Outdoor fitness parks. Well, now I can only speak for myself, but I have to admit that I've become probably a victim of the quarantine 15 or 20. I'm not quite sure, but I have found myself lacking motivation to go outside and find ways to exercise and keep myself in good shape, but which only led to more anxiety about not exercising during a pandemic where several gyms were shut down, not by choice, but just as a result of the pandemic. But then I discovered these outdoor fitness parks, which consist of pull-up bars, long benches, dips and push-up bars, and much more. Think of it more like an outdoor adult playground, for lack of a better term. But this accommodates beginners to experts, seniors, teenagers, and people who have accessibility as well. These fitness parks are found all over Canada, including 50 in Toronto, which I was extremely surprised to learn, but I was also very intrigued by that. Not only do these fitness parks offer residents the opportunity to work outside, there's also programming and rental opportunities to help generate revenue. So in Toronto, they've created what they call a Park Fit TO. And it's a program that offers classes and permit opportunities that I think would be really worth exploring as well. Now, I did notice that we do have some circuit style equipment already. However, we have received some feedback that's been shared with me that it needs some upgrading, or the circuit's too spaced out, or it doesn't really have an optimal workout flow. It's not really the same kind of concept. One being at Shepherd's Bush. Some of you may have seen that equipment out there, the other at Ada Johnson Park. Now, the motion I have presented today is not intended to replace or compete with any traditional gym, rather to offer an extension to the community in an outdoor format. And here's an interesting fun fact that outdoor fitness parks were also listed as one of the top 20 ACSM trends of the 2020 Health and Fitness Survey. So they are being utilized, and in a way that's causing a lot of demand. So essentially, I'd like staff really to find opportunities where outdoor fitness parks could be included, whether it be in one of the new expected parks that we're going to create. It could be in an existing park, especially in the Southwest Aurora area where we don't have a community center. But it's not to say that's where we would have the space, but it's worth a look. I realize there would be some budget implications, and I propose that costing will be brought forward with a future budget in mind for consideration. It's just right now, this is preliminary, just taking a peek at what those options would look like. I did speak to staff who did support this initiative and agree that there are opportunities that exist. So I now ask my fellow colleagues to please support this motion to get the ball rolling, and hopefully will not only contribute to the success of my reduction of my quarantine 15, but primarily contribute to the overall physical health, mental health, and overall well-being of our community. So I thank you for this opportunity for bringing this motion forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Gillam, for bringing it forward. Certainly, we all saw how much our residents needed some outdoor activities through this long quarantine. I guess just my question really is to Ms. McDougall. With regards to the Parks and Rec master plan, I know that it's sort of laid out a number of needs and recommendations with regards to facilities and so forth. I personally went through it and I didn't necessarily see this particular item identified within the report, but I just wanted to check with you. So I guess my question is twofold to Ms. McDougall. One is she aware of in the Parks and Rec master plan any reference to an outdoor fitness park? And two, I recognize that plan is quite old. We've had a few little updates. What's the future outlook for that plan and whether any updates are coming?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Certainly in reviewing the Parks Recreation Master Plan, because it was done before my time, I too went back and had a look. The outdoor fitness park, that phrase, that terminology was not referenced within the plan, therefore was not part of either inputs from the community and or from the consultations that were done at the time. Indoor fitness, yes, definitely there was a fair amount of conversation. But in saying that, it is since 2016, things have changed. Certainly COVID has brought on new interests and in particular about outdoor activities. As far as the master plan, as I mentioned, it is a 2017 to 2021 plan. Therefore, we are looking to do an update to this plan in 2022, which would certainly do an assessment of the community, of our current facilities and assets, which include both indoor and outdoor, and would have some recommendations going forward regarding future assets for this, for the community to consider based on need, feasibility, fundability, that kind of thing that goes forward.
Thank you. And while I think there is merit in exploring the idea, I just wonder if it's better to do it through the entire Parks and Rec master plan when we're looking at the entire picture. You know, we know that there's a long list of needs and wants that came out of the first one, and I'm sure there'll be more needs and wants in the second one, and perhaps this can be incorporated into it because at the end of the day, you know, it'll be part of that overall picture and decision making. So my preference is to see it rolled into the next update to the Parks and Rec master plan, which it sounds like is just around the corner, given it that it's October and Ms. McDougall talked about doing it in 2022.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. It's a good point about the rec master plan. But I think any research that we would require to update it with this kind of park could be used by staff at that time. Ms. McDougall, is it possible, I have seen it, I believe, in Toronto, where you can incorporate this kind of a park into a more traditional playground, depending, of course, on the size of the park? Is that within your experience?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. In fact, I know our manager of parks and fleet, Ms. Teenkamp, has responded with seeing that and based on more in her work and the areas of different infrastructure and the types of parks and playgrounds that can be implemented. So I have too seen it integrated in playground settings, near playground settings. So obviously as families arrive, they've got somewhere to mom and dad work out while their children play and it can be observed. So I do understand that that is an option as a future consideration.
Councillor?
Thank you. Just mentioning that because we don't have enough land for rec. So if we can incorporate it into something that's existing, you know, I think we'd have a much better chance of getting this kind, at least one of these parks, maybe more. Thank you, Councillor Gillam. I think it's a good idea. And maybe it'll fit very nicely into our new rec master plan.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much, Councillor Gillam, for bringing this forward. I think it's an excellent idea. Let's not talk about COVID wait. Oh my goodness. Anyway, but I think it's an exceptional idea. And a couple of things. I know there's one that stands in my mind in Barrie, just around the bay, and it's almost associated with their trail. So maybe there's an opportunity to look at our trails and see if there's a way to incorporate some of those stations along some of our trails if you know they don't fit properly in their existing parks. But I think the way you can situate them, they could probably fit anywhere and provide a great opportunity. And I love the idea of putting it, adding this as an overall view when we're looking at our parks and the master plan. Absolutely, to see where we can put these in and almost make it as a consideration as each park develops or gets created or renovated, updated, that it's something to consider. So I think it's a great idea. But through you, Mr. Mayor, and I know this has come up before, and we wanted to put fitness parks somewhere, and for whatever reason, there wasn't a positive way back when, but things have changed now, totally. And I think it's a great idea. I'm trying to remember. I think we wanted it. We had a debate here a few years, many years ago, but I think it's a great idea and looking forward to getting the report back. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gillam, for bringing this forward. It, physical and mental well-being is certainly something that the population, especially in this day and age, needs and requires. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to I'm sure it's Mr. Downey. I believe it's Mr. Downey. Councillor Gillam mentioned the southwest quadrant of town in particular. I know we have a schedule of repair and maintenance or repair and replacement for our parks. Can you tell us when and which parks are due for repair and replacement in that section of town, please?
Mr. Downey.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening. The notice of motion was not particular to any quadrant. My understanding was so. Staff were going to be looking at all opportunities, but in the southwest quadrant, as you know, there is very few parks. I know in some correspondence that staff shared with you today, we were looking at a couple of parks that were due some upgrades, such as Confederation Park. However, once council approves this motion, if it does, staff will take a deeper look at what parks would be available, and of course, then what budget considerations would need to be made. So I'm reluctant to go off and say it should go in any particular quadrant, any particular park at this time.
Councillor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Downey. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gillam, before I go back to you to wrap up, I just wanted to, Councillor Humphreys brought it up. Yeah, we did deal with it last term. We didn't approve it, but as has been mentioned around the table, things have changed. We've seen what's happened with the pandemic, but ultimately, I think that we all would agree that we'd like to see the cost before moving forward on anything. So that's what's being proposed. So when we get that report, we can all deal with it at that time. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, and I appreciate the support around the table, and really this is just to get the ball rolling to identify where those opportunities are. I do know there's some new parks that will be in construction mode, I guess in the next year or two for consideration. So I just think that this will just kind of help us kind of give us an idea of what opportunities are out there, what the budgets look like, and if we feel we want to move forward with it or include it in a master plan of sorts. I just think this kind of goes in tandem. So appreciate the support around the table. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, did you have your hand up? You're on mute, Councillor.
Thank you. No, I didn't mean to. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. Councillor Gardner.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That carries. Next, we have 9.4. Councillor Gallo, this is your motion. Would you like to move as is?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner. Mr. Gallo, floor is yours.
Thank you. If, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to read it just because perhaps the public may not have seen it. Whereas the town of Aurora, through the CO's authority, has implemented a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy effective September 13th, 2021, and whereas the policy does not explicitly allow employees the option of undergoing frequent rapid antigen testing similar to other municipalities and large organizations, and whereas the federal government is providing free rapid test kits and state, rapid test kits are important screening tools to help you protect your employees, customers, and their families, and the community where they live. Not everyone has had COVID-19 will show symptoms. Studies suggest that people without symptoms may cause up to 50% of COVID-19 transmissions. You can help reduce the risk of outbreaks by regularly testing and screening your employees. Regular rapid tests provide an extra layer of defense against the spread of the virus, along with public health measures such as frequent hand washings, physical distancing, wearing a mask, and vaccination. Workplace screening will help to slow the spread of COVID-19, keep your employees, their families, and your community safe, safely reopen the economy. To ensure workers have quick and easy access to COVID-19 rapid tests, the Government of Canada, some provincial and territorial governments, and distribution partners are providing free rapid tests to organizations for use in their workplace screening initiatives. Rapid tests are fast, easy, and safe. They provide results in 15 minutes. And whereas allowing employees the option of undergoing frequent rapid antigen testing maintains the health and safety of workers from the hazards of COVID-19 and provides employees a level of privacy. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the town of Aurora include in the mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy the option of undergoing frequent rapid antigen testing for all in town of Aurora employees, volunteers, and students.
Do you want to
Oh, yeah,
continue,
sorry.
Councillor? Okay, go ahead.
I thought of doing this because the policy that's been developed wasn't clear on that option, and I thought it would be important for it to be clear and provide employees that option. We certainly are not doing anything different than other municipalities are doing, like Mississauga, Brampton, and others. As well as the Ministry of Education, teachers, administrators in Ontario have the option to do this, and many students as well. So we're not exactly going into new territory, allowing the employees of the town to have this option. There was a communication from the region that was sent out by Mr. Anarosny around 5 o'clock, just to, I guess, their opinion, and it's basically saying that everyone that's going to be interacting, particularly in sports, needs to be fully vaccinated. I do want to point out that I'm not sure why York Region is being such a stickler on this, but in that document under definitions and organized sports, it references the definition of sports, and it references the Ministry of Health and Proof of Vaccination guidelines. And for some reason, it doesn't want to follow what that states. So the Government of Ontario yesterday provided proof of vaccination guidelines for businesses and organizations under Reopening Act Ontario. And under exemptions, it says proof of vaccination and proof of identification and proof of vaccination against COVID-19 required under Ontario Relation 364/20 do not apply to A, co-workers, contractors, repair workers, delivery workers, students, volunteers, inspectors, or others who are entering the business or organizations for work purposes and not patrons. So it really goes contrary to what the region is saying in that document that was produced today. based on what the province produced yesterday. I think it's the right approach. To me, the current policy gives two options: get double vaccinated or potentially lose your job. And that, to me, I don't think is a proper solution when there are other solutions that can continue to maintain the health and safety of individuals, like many other organizations are doing right now, and achieving a level of privacy for them. We can accomplish all of it through this venue, and I think it should be part of the policy.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any comments or questions? Before anyone goes, I think this is an important topic, so I will go. First of all, we're not dealing with proof of vaccination. What we're dealing with is our mandatory vaccination policy at the town of Aurora. But I think I can speak for everyone in saying that we are exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. We'd like to just get back to the way things were before the pandemic. We have experienced over 18 months of devastating impacts to virtually every aspect of our lives. We've seen businesses close, and we've seen people lose their livelihoods and their homes, and we've seen loved ones get sick and die. As this crisis drags on, we have unfortunately also experienced the impacts of caustic, divisive politicalization of the pandemic. This serves no one. We get through this by working together toward a common cause: the health and safety of our residents, staff, and business owners. As mayor, my job from day one has been to rely on the advice of the medical officer of health to protect the health and welfare of everyone in our community. Throughout this crisis, I've been a fierce advocate for our business owners and a strong supporter of initiatives that keep our residents safe. We've all done our best to do our part. Right now, our businesses are open and beginning the road to recovery. Arts and culture are having live events again. And we are beginning to once again get together for large town events like the street party the other weekend. And our kids, well, they're back to school in person and back to playing the sports that they love. Public health and safety measures implemented by the town and many other municipalities, including capacity limits, masking, physical distancing, and vaccination requirements, are based on the latest and best evidence and under the advice of the York Region Medical Officer of Health and other medical officers of health to give us the best chance to slow the spread of this virus and keep us safe while hoping to avoid further lockdowns and get us through this pandemic. With respect to currently implemented public health measures, I've conferred with Dr. Kurji, York Region's Medical Officer of Health, and he states, and I quote, "Unvaccinated individuals are 9.5 times more likely to get infected than vaccinated individuals. In populations using only rapid testing, they have proven ineffective as cases are often not reported to public health. There is failure in notification of close contacts, failure to isolate, often self-management, and often returning to work prematurely. In other words, not without risk." He also states, "We now know that being fully vaccinated provides very good protection while also substantially reducing the likelihood of hospitalization." Like his public health counterparts, Dr. Kurji has expressed many times that vaccinations are our ticket to getting out of the COVID-19 crisis. At York Region, they are reserving frequent testing by accredited parties along with other accommodations for the rare cases of human rights-based, i.e. medical exemptions, to open up the testing alternatives to those otherwise eligible for vaccination threatens the accessibility of rapid testing for those who truly need it. Now, I recognize the necessity of the extraordinary steps provincial and municipal leaders have taken to protect our residents, staff, and business owners from the highly contagious Delta variant. But with respect to the motion on the floor, I will not be supporting it. The motion itself is self-conflicting. It is comprised largely of an out-of-context excerpt from the Government of Canada website offering assistance to businesses that need to provide screening for their staff. It does not speak to using rapid testing as a replacement for vaccinations or other public health measures. It clearly states the opposite, as it states, regular rapid tests provide an extra layer of defense against the spread of the virus, along with public health measures such as frequent hand washing, physical distancing, wearing masks, and vaccinations. So it is clearly stating that offering rapid tests are an additional layer of public health protection, not a replacement for vaccination. And I concur, as does our medical officer of health. Therefore, I cannot support the motion on the floor as it is contrary to the advice of our medical officer of health and puts the health and safety of our community at risk. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I've actually asked the clerk to put up on the screen the policy statement with regards to the vaccination policy so that the members of the public can also see it.
Mr. Clerk, do we have that? Linda?
Thank you. And I'll simply read it out, where the policy statement with regards to the policy is that the health and safety of town employees is a top priority. The town of Aurora is committed to taking every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for the protection of the health and safety of workers from the hazard of COVID-19. The mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy is a key element in the protection of town employees against COVID-19 and is designed to maximize COVID-19 vaccination rates among town employees as one of the critical control measures against the virus. To this end, town employees, students, and volunteers are required to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The purpose of this policy is to protect the health and safety of all employees and visitors to town facilities. Full vaccination has been shown to be effective in reducing COVID-19 virus transmission and protecting vaccinated individuals from severe consequences of COVID-19 and its variants. Given the continuing spread of COVID-19, the compelling data demonstrating a higher incidence of COVID-19 among the unvaccinated population and the increasing levels of contact between individuals as businesses, services, and activities have reopened, it is important for town employees, students, and volunteers to be fully vaccinated in order to protect themselves against serious illness from COVID-19, as well as to provide indirect protection to others, including colleagues. And for me, the underlying rationale is straightforward. Vaccinated employees are less likely to become infected and to transmit COVID-19. It is simply a reasonable precaution to take for the protection of the workplace. And as the employer, we must take every precaution reasonable to protect our workers. This is set out in the Occupational Health and Safety Act. It is also identified in the regulations under the Reopening Ontario Act, which require businesses and employers to operate in compliance with recommendation, instructions, and/or advice that are given by public health officials. And the mayor was good enough to share with us Dr. Kurji's latest recommendations and thoughts on this matter. But it's not just about our employees. Our workers have regular access to members of the public to a much greater degree than employees who work in an office building. Therefore, the use of this policy will not only protect our employees, but also members of the public they regularly interact with. Many experts point out that regular testing for COVID-19 is not an effective alternative or substitute to vaccinations to prevent the spread of the virus. It is simply an additional layer of protection along with other public health measures such as mask wearing, hand hygiene, and most importantly, vaccination. I'll leave the debate about the effectiveness of rapid testing versus PCR and the challenges associated with the take-home kits to the medical experts, and simply point out that through the implementation of this policy, we are providing the highest safety measures available to our employees and the residents. Safety is a key component of this discussion and many others that we have around this table. How many times in our decisions have we placed a premium on safety? After all, vaccinations offer the best protection we currently have against COVID-19, and all indications are The vaccination rules and policies are here to stay for quite some time. This policy ensures we provide our workers with the highest safety measure possible, and we shouldn't compromise the safety of our employees or the residents by adopting the proposed changes Councillor Gallo has put forth. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gillam.
Thank you. I really don't know where to start with this. When I first learned of the vaccination policy, I immediately talked to our CEO about what the options would be for people with medical conditions, religious reasons, or people who are just really unsure. And at that time, it was something that was in process and hadn't been completely ironed out. I guess since then, this policy has been put together, and there is no option for this rapid testing that Councillor Gallo has put forward. I honestly think sometimes I just want to cry to think for those people who are scared for whatever their reasons are. I'm double vaccinated. I encourage everybody to get vaccinated. Absolutely. I agree with the medical health officer, and that is the best way to fight this. But for somebody to feel scared and that they may risk losing their livelihood, their job, their security, everything, and feeling that they don't have any other choice for whatever reason, I just can't sit here and say, I don't support what Councillor Gallo is putting forward today. If they need that little bit more time and they can have some sort of a test in order to say they're clear or work remotely or work something out while we're all trying to fight and work together, I would like to see at least some sort of options there to help work together. The time is ticking. This is just not something that's just happening over a period of time. This is like, we're talking October 7th. At least that's what I believe. And I just don't think it's, I don't want to be put in that position where I feel like someone's livelihood is at risk based on having a little time to have this option that is out there. It's there as an option. Why can we not at least make our people, the small percentage of people feel they have that choice? Yes, get vaccinated, I agree. But I do believe there should be some sort of option here to allow them to go through the education process, allow them to go through to understanding where they need to be in order to get that vaccination and take it from there. But at this time, I'm supporting what Councillor Gallo has on the floor. Other municipalities have done it. Other corporations have done it. We're not alone here. This is not the only corporation or municipality that has some sort of antigen rapid testing. This is not new. It's supported, or else this wouldn't be on the floor. We wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be active today in some other corporations. That's why it's there as an option. And I think it's only proper for us to at least offer something for that peace of mind while we get through this. And hopefully we get to that 90% or 95% of double vaccination, but we're not quite. But I am very, very glad to say that we did hit 80% in Ontario double vaccination. And that's really, really good news. We're getting there. And I'm sure it's going to get higher. But let's not put people's livelihoods, give them more anxiety. I don't want to see suicides and depressions and children, enough stress in the family already. And no, I don't think they're all being selfish, and nobody should be all pinned down together like, oh, that's because they're anti-vaxxers, because they're not all anti-vaxxers, the ones that are saying that they just want to take some time. Don't lump them all together. I think that's unfair. And I don't think what Councillor Gallo is putting forward is unreasonable.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am double vaccinated, as are every member of my family. I believe that vaccination is the best defense against COVID. I believe in the individual right to not have to inject themselves with something that they do not feel comfortable with. However, there is a consequence to every decision. We do not live in isolation. but rather we live in a community and work in a community with others. It's about a balance of interests. The majority of people who are vaccinated believe that those who are not vaccinated are a risk to their health. This belief is not without merit, but is backed by the scientific and medical community, and we cannot ignore this. However, I believe that having gainful employment is not non-essential, like having access to groceries and other drugs that the government has deemed essential, but so is having an income to sustain the necessities of life. During the past several weeks, I've knocked on approximately 7,000 doors. Majority of the residents were vaccinated, and those who said they were not vaccinated were not anti-vaxxers. Rather, they just wanted more time for more scientific and medical data to come in so that they just feel more comfortable. Many vaccines have side effects. Most are temporary and harmless, but a very small number of people experience intolerable side effects that could be worse than getting COVID itself. And we may not know the full gamut of side effects until some years have passed. It can be 6 months or it may be a year, but I believe the majority of those hesitant about the vaccine will come around. I do understand that there is an ethical balance to be struck, introducing a vaccine and saving more lives from COVID, but risking side effects or ineffectiveness versus engaging in longer and more rigorous testing and having more confidence in safety and efficacy, but more people dying of COVID while such testing occurs. There is no magic answer, and given the economic, social, and health catastrophe of various anti-COVID-19 measures such as lockdown, there's considerable pressure to encourage the vaccine. In my view, vaccination has a superior cost-benefit profile compared with other alternatives. That said, I believe in people having gainful employment. In speaking with staff, amongst the staff of over 500 people at the town, a very small number of staff have disclosed some level of displeasure at the prospect of the vaccination policy. I have been assured by our CAO that every possible step will be taken to ensure that all means to retain staff will be undertaken. I do believe we can make this work. In summary, I will not be in support of Councillor Gallo's motion. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, I understand why Councillor Gallo's brought this forward. He's trying to find an alternative that will allow time and people to help them make a decision and to feel comfortable and, you know, rights for people and so on. But, you know, we've been living this, all of us, the world has been living with this. And everyone has individual opinions and perspectives. But from my perspective, and I'll keep this very brief because I've heard lots around the table and I support and agree with everything I've heard from every perspective. But the bottom line is safety first. And our medical experts are asking us to please get vaccinated. This is how we protect ourselves, our community, and our loved ones. I have lost someone directly due to COVID. And that was in February, and the vaccine came out a couple of weeks later. And I prayed that that could have been after. She could have been still here. So I have a hard time with the reality of, you know, I'm not a doctor. I rely heavily on the doctors, the experts in this field. And if there's some true concerns or some very serious reasons why this cannot be done, I'm sure their doctors will be able to help cope with some ways to get around to accommodate somehow their work. But the majority, you know, needs this vaccination to help ourselves and our families. And we are public sector here. We're serving the public. We have an obligation to know that as our staff are interfacing with their residents, that we're not putting anyone in any kind of danger. The other, I'll touch on this, is the rapid tests. My father is living in a retirement community. And even though I'm double vaxxed, my period about a month ago, I wasn't the full 14 days after the second vax hadn't occurred. So I had to have rapid testing, and the first test failed. We tried another one and it failed. Then we tried another one and that passed. And there's, the world is saying there's the stuff that they're using. You don't want to do that constantly because that may cause other effects. So there's nothing without risk for sure. There'll be some, side effects. We've all experienced them after the need, we've had our vaccine. But I think the main thing for me and our community is safety first. And, our mayor said it best, his obligation to keep our community safe. And it's through our experts, our medical experts. And I'm very thankful that our CAO has said that they will do everything in their power to help those that are having a difficult time and be able to work that out. So, it's difficult. This is difficult. We've been living in a very strange time for the last 18, almost 2 years. And we want to get past it. I have to say, it's been amazing to go to a street festival. Again, it's almost life-saving in itself that we're being able to get out there and see our family and friends again. It's been very difficult from a mental health perspective not to have that. And I believe the quicker we get there, again, safety first for our residents. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Difficult conversation. But for me, we need to adhere to, and by the way, just one last comment, where I work outside of town, all these procedures have been put in place in every one of my organizations that I interface with, vendors, I have not met or interfaced with one organization that is not implementing vaccines and documentation of it within their organizations. Everybody wants to get back to some sort of regular life again, and that's the only way to do it. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I ask perhaps through you to Mr. CAO?
Sure. What's the question?
Okay. So with respect to the employees that will not be vaccinated by October 7th, for the employees that have a medical reason, are we going to be accepting that reason as valid for not being vaccinated?
CAO, I believe, as long as it's a valid medical exemption, but go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. As long as they have a valid medical exemption, then they would not require to be vaccinated.
Councillor?
Thank you. And with respect to the education piece, what have we done to help our employees that are not vaccinated with respect to the education piece?
Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in conjunction with our partner municipalities in York, we have developed a training program. It's an online training that the employees can take at their own pace, on their own time. Once they take the training, they're asked to attest to the fact that they have completed the training.
Councillor?
Thank you. For those few employees that won't be double vaxxed by the 7th of October, is there also the opportunity for them to work from home?
CAO?
So, Mr. Mayor, as you can appreciate, we have a number of positions that working from home is not an option, particularly in our operations and parks areas where that would not be able to be accommodated. We have a number of other employees who are working from home, but for the purposes of consistency, we've applied this policy uniformly across the organization.
Councillor?
Yes, actually, are we going to be asking our snowplow operators to be double vaxxed?
Mr. CAO?
So, Mr. Mayor, as I said, this policy applies to all employees, volunteers, and co-op students, that kind of thing.
Councillor?
Thank you. I do agree with what Councillor Gilland has said eloquently. And I'm not going to try and repeat it because I couldn't do nearly as good a job. Thank you, Councillor Gilland. I'm not comfortable knowing that we could have loyal employees lose their employment because of this. And I understand all of the arguments that everybody's made, and frankly, everybody's right. No matter what side you stay on, there's right on all sides. So I am going to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilland, second time.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up to Councillor Gallo. He had said in his opening remarks about the York Region District School Board. So I did look this up, and I just want to make this clear. Individuals subject to this protocol will be required to provide proof of one of the following three things: full vaccination against COVID-19, or a medical reason for not being vaccinated against COVID-19. 3, completion of a COVID-19 vaccination education program prescribed by the Ministry of Education. Those who are not fully vaccinated will be required to complete COVID-19 rapid antigen testing at a minimum frequency prescribed by the Ministry of Education. This protocol applies to all school board employees as well as frequent school visitors and other professionals who provide services in schools and interact with students and staff, including third-party contractors. I really just wanted to read that out just to kind of make it clear that I think that what Councillor Gallo is asking is not reinventing the wheel here. And I hope some of you around the table do realize that, you know, there is some more work to do, obviously, with the education piece. That's why it's there. Let's support our staff and allow them to have that time and include the resources and the tools that we have. It's good for the province and good for the public education system. They recognize that as a safe way to keep our schools open. I really feel that having this option is not going to make this environment that we are in right now any less safe. I think that we've got these great tools that were put in place by professionals, scientific research with these testing. One could argue about the PCR testing. One can argue about so many other things, but clearly this is good enough for our educational system. I think that's good enough for us to follow. Thanks.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. First off, I just, want to say that was not easy for me to present this, and I respect everyone's opinion, and it's a very difficult one, and I respect the passion on both sides, and I don't believe anyone at this table wants to put any employee or the public at harm, even if you're against what I'm proposing. I don't believe you want to do that, and I don't believe you think that I want to put people at harm either. Just two things. Maybe one to Councillor Humphreys' comments that every business he encounters has implemented this, and I'm sure that's true. But you certainly cannot deny that the Ministry of Education is allowing this to happen in our school systems. Millions of children across Ontario, hundreds of thousands of teachers and administration staff have this option. It's not something that we're reinventing. And why we want to be so strict, perhaps it's a very low number of employees. I don't know what the number is. I don't even know if there's one. That's not the point. On the one hand, throughout this craziness, and I saw the emails and I encouraged the emails and I liked the emails to all of our staff, thanking them for the last 18 months coming out to work, doing their jobs, putting themselves perhaps in harm's way. And to those employees now that want to maintain their privacy and do whatever they want with their medical treatments, now we're saying, you're going to lose your job, I'm sorry, unless you do this. I just can't sit back and watch that. Clearly the vote is going to, unless one of you changes your mind, it's going to fail. It's a disappointing time if the arguments are that you're looking after the safety of staff, and I get that. But what I'm proposing isn't something new, isn't something that many organizations, millions of people in the province of Ontario are allowed the opportunity to keep their jobs and follow this regime. Voting against this is telling those employees that you need to, we're mandating double vaccination, and if you don't, you're going to lose your job. And I can't just sit back and watch that. I hope one or more of you change your mind. I don't see the drawback to this, considering if you're worried about public health, well, what's the school system doing? What are many other organizations? What's Mississauga doing? What's Brampton doing? What's Sarnia doing? They're all allowing this to take place for their employees. For some reason, the region has put down these policies, and we somewhat blindly follow them without taking into account what other people are also doing and what other options are on the table. If it fails, well, then I'm sorry to those employees that I tried very hard to protect. I did my best.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Any other comments or questions? I've said a couple more. I think also on the other side, to insinuate that anyone that doesn't vote in favor of this motion doesn't care about our employees' jobs. I think that's an absolutely misleading way of putting it. I think all of us are concerned about our employees. We're all concerned about their jobs. We're all concerned about their safety, and we're concerned about our community as a whole. When you do talk about the education system is a unique policy that they put forward. What you have to remember too is that the public system, especially those that are under the age of 12, cannot be vaccinated. So I think in certain senses, they've looked at that and they said that how do you have a mandatory vaccination policy when there's people that are going to be in the building that cannot be vaccinated? So they have to utilize that rapid testing. But once again, I'm going to state, as I said, rapid testing is in combination with vaccination. It's not a substitution. And York Region has done a tremendous job in listening to the experts, to the science, to our doctors, to our medical officer of health. We've done it from the beginning of this pandemic. Dr. Kurji has done a tremendous job. He was the only one that stuck out his neck to say that there needs to be a balanced approach, that we can continue to keep our businesses open, but do it in a safe way. And we followed that advice in York Region. We were able to keep our businesses open the longest while we rode through the third wave. And that was on the advice of our medical officer of health. And so when our medical officer of health is giving us this advice and saying that this is not a substitute, I'm going to follow that advice every time, because to me, I'm going to listen to the expert and I'm going to take that advice and I'm going to do what's best for our community. I also did want to mention, this is also a coordinated effort between all 9 municipalities in York Region and the region itself. This isn't just a policy at the town of Aurora. This policy was worked on by regional staff and by all 9 municipalities, all 9 CAOs, solicitors, health staff, doctors. They were all there. They all worked on this policy. They tried to make the fairest policy, but that would at the same time provide the most protection and keep everyone safe. And I think through that coordinated effort, that's what we have in front of us. Councillor Humphreys, you wanted to second that?
Just through Mr. Just very quickly, and I can appreciate my confusion. And I understand, Councillor Gallo, when you mentioned other places are providing sort of a mixed policy. True, absolutely. And just in my industry, in my world of telecom technology, technicians going to site visits, there's absolutely nothing allowed. We just cannot allow anything to jeopardize our client safety and our vendor and our customers and so on. But I just want to say again, this is a very difficult discussion, and I appreciate Councillor Gallo's reasoning. I totally understand it, and then I respect all this conversation around the table as well. And to Councillor Gardner's point, everybody has a right aspect, a right perspective. It's a matter of being consistent and having a common direct policy. If there's this yes, no, it becomes very difficult to manage and to keep people safe. And this is why I believe we're leading into this straight direction. And I'm using my experience in the private sector while we are working here in the public sector. And again, the bottom line is our specialists, our, Dr. Kurji, our medical professionals, people that are in the industry right now, working in hospitals, nurses, doctors, friends of mine that I know what they're living with. I know what Calgary is going through right now in terms of having people out there. We just need to be really careful. And I believe that this is the right way. And I do hope that staff understand that it's nothing but keeping everyone safe. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. And I do agree with what Councillor Gardner and Councillor Humphreys says. I mean, it is a challenging issue, and everybody is speaking from their perspective, and everybody has a degree of rightness to it. But it just depends on what the deciding factors are for you, or what you value in terms of determining it. Because when you look at policies, and some organizations have been brought up, and you can say, well, the city of Toronto has it, and the city of Mississauga does it, the city of Ottawa has it. You can look through a huge list of people that have mandatory vaccination policies and others don't. And we're not here to argue what's right or wrong for those organizations. We're here to say what's right for the town of Aurora. And I guess as we go around the table here and we all look at it, it comes down to what the deciding factors are for you in your opinion. For some, it's livelihood, and for others, it's lives. And that's where I'm coming from. It's about having the highest safety measure possible for the employees and the residents of this town. For me, it's about lives.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo, if you want to finish up, is there a motion? Otherwise, I'll call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I'm going to do any more convincing. Everybody's made up their minds. Please call the vote.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I'll call the vote. Just one sec, everyone. We're just having some technical difficulties. Clerk, should we just do a recorded vote? Do a recorded vote? Okay, Council, we're just going to do a recorded vote because there's some technical issues. So, Mr. Clerk, recorded vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies for the technical issues. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Thompson votes no. Councillor Kim?
No.
Councillor Gilland?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
No.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
And Councillor Humphreys?
Councillor Humphreys, can you say that again? Sorry, we didn't hear.
No.
Motion is defeated.
Motion is defeated. Council, no regional report that will be coming very shortly. New business. I will go around and I'll start to my left. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I thought of this after we had debated Councillor Humphreys' motion, and I wanted to give the CAO an opportunity to talk about what the town is actually doing on September 30th. So perhaps he can comment on the actions that the town is taking.
Mr. CAO, did you want to, or did you want me to go to Ms. McDougall on that?
I can take that.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Aurora will be supporting and actively participating in the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We're committed to providing learning opportunities through courses and some special events as well. On the day, staff will be provided with a link to an online course on Indigenous history. It's called the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation. And this is in partnership with the First Nations University of Canada, which is Canada's only Indigenous university. This is a multimedia modular course. I believe it's in 4 different sections, and it teaches Indigenous awareness training for the workplace. We will also be, of course, coordinating a community event that will include a time of reflection, education, and a community sacred fire at the Town Park Bandshell between 6 and 8 p.m. And before that, of course, the Cultural Center also has a program of events between 4 and 6 p.m. And finally, we are encouraging staff to wear an orange shirt to honor the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on the 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add, we're also going to be doing a flag raising as well at the town. All flags will go to half mast while we raise the All Child Lives Matter flag. Is that the flag that we are raising, Mr. Clerk? Yes. Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure if that or if it was one of the. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Thompson? Thank you. Councillor Kim? New business? Councillor Humphreys, new business? New business, not public service announcements. Councillor Gillam, new business.
Please. Couple things through Mr. Mayor to Mr. CAO, wondering if you had any updates from the library in regards to having a coffee in the library, whether or not that was something that they were going to accommodate.
Mr. CEO?
To you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I did relay the concern to the library CEO, and I haven't heard back from him yet, so I think they're.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. I look forward to the update sometime soon. Also through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, and I was hoping you could give me some update on the St. Andrews boardwalk on the corner of St. John's and Yonge. There's been some concerns from residents about the, I guess, the length of time it's taken for this boardwalk to be constructed. And I was wondering if you could fill us in with a little bit of an update on that.
Mr. Downey? So through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't tell you how disappointed I am with the progress of that project. I can tell you that staff are in constant contact with the contractor. Can also tell you that we've taken every step through our solicitor and our procurement division with regards to providing direction and motivation and the consequences with regards to how slow this contract's been going on. We have been in contact every day this week so far with no response from the contractor. We are awaiting a safety barrier at the corner of Yonge and Wellington, St. John and Yonge. And that has been promised, however, has not been installed. They were to be there Monday. It didn't show. They were to be there today and didn't show. So we will be contacting them again tomorrow and taking every step possible in order to complete this project. But once again, I apologize. We are not very happy with the progress of this project.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate the update, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to ask, but are there any consequences in place or penalties to protect us to ensure that the contractors do follow through within the scope of the project?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there are, and we have taken those steps. However, that doesn't complete the project, and that's our main concern. So we are desperately trying to get this project completed so that we can close this project off. But we are taking all steps within our legal abilities and within the confines of the contract in order to complete this contract. I don't want to promise a date of when it'll be finished because we have been provided dates by the contractor before, and those dates have come and gone. So I wish I could give you a date of completion, but unfortunately I cannot.
Councillor? Thank you. Appreciate that. Lastly, I have had some interest from some people in the community, not through you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Downey, but I guess to Mr. Waters, about a possible, I believe it's called level 3, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's level 1 EV charging station in the downtown core, something that would be considered, I guess, a pseudo attraction. I've heard that some people with some EV cars say will tour out and map up areas for these superchargers and gives them an opportunity to visit certain towns and walk along the corridor and enjoy some of the restaurants or shops. And you know, it's been kind of passed to me, this would be a great opportunity. I was wondering through Mr. Mayor and Mr. Waters, if this is something that perhaps that may be within our program that we might consider, if there's opportunities with the provider to have one of these upgraded supercharges.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if the council could provide me with the contact information, we will pursue the lead.
Councillor?
Thank you. I was in discussions briefly with Ms. Keel and Ms. Mihail, so perhaps maybe a conversation with them, with the current contractor, perhaps that we are using now, or maybe there's somebody else, I'm not sure. But I thought that perhaps if it was possible to kind of get the conversations and the dialogue happening to see if that was something that we could perhaps look into, since we're already implementing some sort of a station allocation.
Mr. Waters, I see you nodding your head.
Yes, like I said, I'll speak to, through you, Mr. Mayor, I will speak to staff and understand kind of where we are with the contractor, because I know in order to achieve the funding, you had to have a certain contractor retained. So I'll speak to them about the councillor's inquiry.
And Councillor, there will be stations in Town Square as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, new business? You're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry, thanks. I would like to thank Mr. Downey for the speed with which the signs went up at the Arboretum. And those signs are there to encourage safety, so they're very important. Thanks, Mr. Downey. And I also heard that at the Trailhead Park for the David Tomlinson Wildlife Park, that we're going to have a new and what I think would be a more interesting kind of playground equipment, which I've been asking for a long time. So I'm going to thank you, Mr. Downey. I'm going to assume that that was under your umbrella as well. With respect to Mr. Rose Donahoe, I apologize. I read his email this afternoon and I only read the first part that showed up on my screen, and it said he was going to be speaking with the artists. So I didn't go further into the email to check his concerns. But I would like to say that I won't say I was shocked, but almost shocked to see that the website for the Moonlight Murals Collective, to see that it had completely changed in the space of a few days, just before we discussed this at council, to actually represent what was on the application that we received. I think it's very strange. We've already decided, so I don't know if there's any point in following up with the artists on that, but I still would like to know the answer to why that happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo, new business? No? Okay, thank you. Before I go to confirming bylaws, I just had one. I guess maybe it's more for Mr. Serio. Mr. Serio, are you there?
Yes.
When I start this, you might think it's a bit odd I'm asking you, but in regards to the to that boardwalk, the quick copy boardwalk, did we have liquidated damages in that contract?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, could we, if I could ask you to look into that for me, please? I think I'd appreciate it. I think if we do have liquidated damages in that, I think that's something that we need to look at moving forward with.
I definitely will look into it.
Thank you very much. Council, bylaws. Someone like to move them? We have 3 of them tonight. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gillam. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? Councillor Gardner.
I'm very glad to see that the one on Kitimat is finally with us for approval. I think we had quite a few upset residents that this particular signage took so long. So good to see that it's finally here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I know you've been pushing real hard to get that here as soon as possible. So I think we're all glad that it's here and it's going to be up. So thank you very much for your persistence.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I mean, school's been open for almost a month. Well, for 3 weeks anyway. So it's more than timely. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll call a vote. Are we okay, or should I? We're still having technical difficulties, so I'm going to call for a recorded vote because it is council. So, Mr. Clerk. Is it working? No, I'm getting a no. We're just going to do a recorded vote. So let's just do a recorded vote so we don't have to sit and wait. We're at the end now. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record vote for the bylaws in this evening's agenda. Councillor Humphreys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
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 Motion
bylaws carried.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We have no closed session. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gillam, Councillor Kim. I just ask for hands. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gillam, Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned.